Hello everyone, this is part 2 on how to cook steak like a man. Now the first part is when you didn't have much time and you wanted some steak right away. This is when you have more time to cook it and obviously it's going to be more delicious. So enjoy part 2. Idziemy pobliżu. So you can see that this is a piece of steak, right? Now you have to cut it. So here's the thing. If the piece is way too big, it's not going to cook properly. You run into the chance of burning the outside of the steak while inside is going to be raw. You don't want that. Now, if you make it too thin, then the problem is that it's going to cook inside, but then you're not going to get this outside layer that is going to be crisp and crunchy, just like we like it, right? So I would say cut it with a width of 2 centimeters. And for my American friends, I would say like a quarter of a Q-tip. So let's do that. Now we just finished cutting the steak. You can look, 3 beautiful pieces. Now, in the other part that I did, I was beating the meat. Now, beating the meat makes the meat more tender, which is great. However, you're losing a lot of juice. We don't want to lose a lot of juice. So that's why this time we're not going to beat the meat. What we're going to do, we're going to make holes. Now, I have a special thing that makes holes inside of the meat, but you can just use a fork or a knife, like it doesn't matter, right? So let's make some holes. Very easy to use. You can find this in Dollarama or something. Now you want to make sure that you do both sides. Now, why is it important to make holes? So the holes, what they will do is that the meat is going to cook evenly, which is what you want. Because again, as I mentioned, when the piece of meat is thicker, you run into the chance that inside of the steak is going to be raw, but on the outside is going to be burnt. So that's why you want the heat to be able to go inside and cook not only on the outside, but on the inside. Otherwise, if you don't do that, and if you use that type of width, like a huge width of steak, then you have to lower the heat, and because you're lowering the heat, it's going to take way much time to cook. You don't want that. You still want to be efficient with your time because time is money, right? So we're making holes. Now, the question that you might ask, well, is the juice going to come out from the holes? It will not. Why? I don't know, but it will not. So just trust me. Now, at the same time, when you're making the holes, you're also making the meat more tender because you're still breaking some fibers of muscles, and in that case, it will be more tender. Now it's time to use spices. Now, I know I'm white, but I love spices. So I know it's strange, but I do love spices. Now, the first thing we're gonna put is some salt. And by the way, don't use table salt. Like that thing is gonna give you a lot of problems. And when I say problems, I mean like actual problems, not only financially, but also like mentally and physically. Like table salt is very bad for you. So use like Himalayan salt or like sea salt, but not table salt, please. I'm gonna put some pepper as well. By the way, you're allowed to like spice your steak the way you want it. I'm not gonna come to your house and beat you if you not use the same spice as me. Now, there's other thing which I don't know what it is, but it tastes good. The next thing we're gonna use is cayenne pepper, which I don't know how to pronounce, so you can just read it. Now, again, as I said, I'm white, but I like things that are spicy, so we're gonna put some on the steak. By the way, this thing is very spicy, so be careful, especially if you're white. Okay, so now we have the spice on the meat, which is perfect. The next thing we need is put the oil on the pan, which is already hot. Now, in the first video, the heat that I was using on the pan was very high. We don't want that because now the piece is thicker, and if I put it on high heat, it's just gonna burn outside of the steak and inside is gonna be raw. We don't want that. So we're gonna put it on medium heat. Now the pan is hot, which is what you want. And then you put, by the way, I put animal fats. I don't use any seed oils because that's very bad for you. And if you use margarine, like, stop, because it's very bad for you. So this is, what is this? It's beef tallow. But you can use ghee, you can use butter. Although butter is not the best because it's gonna turn black very, very, very fast. And it's gonna start to smoke and it's gonna smell bad. So you don't want that. This has a higher smoking point, which is what you want. Now, let's put it here. By the way, animal fats are not going to give you cancer or like heart attacks. What is going to give you heart attacks are seed oils. So just keep that in mind when you cook things. So now we're going to put the steak on the pan, which is one of the most important parts, because if you don't put the steak on the pan, it's never going to be cooked. Logic, right? Wow. So we put it on the pan. It's on medium heat. Now, the next thing I like to do is I use this thing to cover the pan. Why do I do that? Well, by the way, if you can see, there's like small holes, right? So why do I cover the pan is because while you're going to be cooking, all the animal fat or the oil is going to splash around, which you don't want because it's just a heartache to clean afterwards. So you use this to prevent from all the oil to just escape, right? It catches all the particles of oil that are trying to escape the pan. Now, you might ask me, why don't I use a regular lid to cover up so that all the oil doesn't just stain all over the place? The reason why I'm not using a lid is because when you're using a lid, all the vapor is not going to be able to escape. All the water, all the vapors are not going to be able to escape, and that's going to create a lot of pressure inside, and basically your steak, instead of being cooked, it's going to be boiled. Because again, all the pressure is inside, and it's just going to boil the steak. It's not going to be fun to eat. Like, it's going to taste like rubber. It's not going to be beautiful, and it's not going to be delicious. So that's why you're using this. The air can escape. You don't have a buildup of pressure inside of your pan, and the oil is not just flying around. By the way, this you can get at Dollarama. I'm not sponsored by Dollarama, so don't worry about it. Just go buy this. It costs like a few dollars. Now, if we bring the camera a little bit closer and we look inside of the pan, you can see that there's still space in between the steaks, which is what you want. For example, I wouldn't put like 5 pieces inside of this pan. The reason why is because there's still juice that is going to be coming out of the steak. I know it's very sad, but there's still juices that are going to come out of the steak. And if there's too much juice inside of the pan, what's going to happen is you're going to get the problem with the lid, where the steak is going to be like in a layer of water and it's just going to boil, which again you don't want because it's going to taste like rubber. So that's why make sure there's still like some space in the pan where there's nothing. Very important. Now the next thing, as you can see, the heat is at medium, and basically I don't even look at the time. So what I do is I just take a fork and I look under the steak, and I can tell if, hey, should I turn it or not, or should I reduce the heat or not? My goal when I cook a steak is for the outside layer of the steak to be crisp and inside to be tender. So you got to make sure it doesn't burn, but at the same time you don't want the outside to not get this layer of crispness, and inside is going to be already cooked. As I told you, I don't look at the time, I just look under the steak. You can see this is what I want. Perfect. We get this crisp outside layer on the steak, which is what I like. And at that point, I can just turn the steak on the other side. And I want the same crisp outside layer on the other side of the steak. Well, on the inside, it's going to be tender. Now, this is why the holes were important, because if I didn't make the holes, and now it's going to be like crisp on the outside, and inside it would be still raw, then I would need to cook it even longer, which will burn the outside of the steak, which you don't want. So now I just wait until the other side to be crisp. And then, again, I'm not going to look at the time. I'm just going to take the fork and a knife, and I'm going to cut it and see if it needs to be cooked a little bit longer or shorter. For example, if you see that the inside of the steak is still raw, but the outside layer is starting to get burned. In that case, you make the right decision of putting your heat lower, because in that case, it will cook the inside of the steak, but it's not going to continue to burn the outside layer. On the other hand, if, for example, inside of the steak, you can see that it's getting closer and closer to be done, but on the outside, you don't have this crisp layer, what you do is you turn the heat very high and you leave it for like a couple of seconds, and then you get exactly the steak that you want. Very simple. So again, as I told you, what I do, I just cut the meat and I look inside. Like, let me just show you. It's gonna be way simpler. Like you see inside, for me, that's perfect. I'm gonna take it out like this. You can see there's a layer on the outside, which is what I want. So tender inside, crisp layer on the outside. This is the steak I would like to eat. Perfect. So the steak is ready. And obviously, I'm not gonna eat it because, you know, as they like to tell you, steak is very bad for you and your health. Plus, it increases your cholesterol and it gives you cancer, and also it gives you like a bunch of heart attacks. So that's why I'm not gonna eat it. Obviously not. I'm not gonna eat any steak. It's red meat. It's very bad for you. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave it here. I'm gonna probably give it to dogs or something, and I'm gonna go and eat some tofu. Yeah, I'm gonna go eat some tofu with the soya sauce, just how I like it. Maybe with some salad. I think that would be perfect. And maybe seed oils. Like all of those good things that give you like good stuff, good nutrition to your body. This is what I'm gonna go eat. And the steak, well, obviously I'm not gonna eat it because, red meat is bad for you. Oh, by the way, before I forget, the other thing that you can do is once you take out the steak out of the pan, for it to not get cold, you can always cover it with a plate. Now, also keep in mind when you're gonna cover with the plate, the steak will continue to cook inside of your plate. Even though it's not in the pan, it's still gonna continue to cook. So you can use that to your advantage. If you know that you're gonna cover up your steak, you can take your steak out of the pan much earlier, because you're gonna know that when you're gonna put the plate over it, it's gonna continue to cook. Now, if you're not planning on doing that, then just take the steak out of the pan when it's ready, right? Very simple.